Step into a world of romance and mystery with Tamora Rose. Today we're reading Chapter 21 of Child of the Wind. Surfolk was in sight, and the sun was beginning its final descent before Canace finally glanced over at her betrothed. He was riding slightly ahead of her and staring off into the distance, though she had felt his eyes on her several times throughout the day. Still, she'd refused to look at him until now. Even when he'd served her a full meal in the saddle, she hadn't spoken to him or looked at him. Jett, for his part, hadn't seemed bothered by her silence. That alone had annoyed her. At first. Now, hours later, she was beginning to thaw toward him. A little. She was still angry that he'd refused to let her bring the lambs, but she also understood why. He'd been right, and that both softened her toward him and made her all the more irritable. Maybe that wasn't entirely fair of her, but she didn't care. Well, she did care, but not all that much. Did she? Realizing her thoughts were beginning to run in circles, Canace shook herself. This was the man she was bound to marry by royal decree, whether she liked it or not. And he would shortly be her lord and master. Could she live with that? Could he? Or would they end up hating each other? The thought made her miserable. Canace, Jett had slowed his horse so that he was now beside her. Are you all right? Of course I am, she retorted with a toss of her head. And why are you so pale? She hated that he'd noticed, but maybe it wasn't entirely a bad thing. Maybe. Taking a deep breath, she decided to be honest. Do you like me? She blurted. He blinked at her. Of course I like you. I'm marrying you. Those two things have absolutely nothing to do with each other. And they didn't. Marriages happened every day, and many of them were between people who hated each other. Do you like me? Yes, Jett replied carefully, trying to see where she was going with this. I think you're a sweet and attractive young lady. That's not really an answer. A slight whine had crept into her tone, but she decided she'd earned that whine. He tried to ignore the pitch of her voice. What answer are you looking for? I want you to tell me you accept me for who I am. What makes you think I don't? The look she gave him was full of skepticism. You've tried to change everything about me since the day we met. That stopped him, made him think. What he remembered from that day was how lovely she was, and he certainly didn't want to change that. In the days that followed, well, she'd proven herself warm, willing, and passionate. Why would he want to change that? Maybe he wanted that damn dog to never come back, especially after he'd been bitten, but that had nothing to do with her. I don't want to change anything about you, he finally answered. Either he was lying to her or he had a very selective memory, so she decided to enlighten him. How can you possibly say that? You want me to spend less time riding and more time inside doing things other people can do much better than I. You want me to hang on your every word but to have none of my own. You want me to be the wife you want instead of who I actually am. He even wanted to decide when she had children, but she didn't mention that part. Her words made him pause, but only for a moment. Of course I want you to be a good wife. That is your duty, both to your husband and your king. By now their appearance had been noted, and several people were waiting for them. Duncan was among them, as was the Duke, so Canace said nothing further. Because she didn't want to have the discussion in front of others, she satisfied herself by pointedly ignoring her betrothed. As grooms rushed forward to take the horses, she slipped from the back of her horse. Since Duncan was closest, she moved toward him, raised herself up on her tiptoes, and kissed his cheek. It was a long ride, she said before he could even open his mouth. I think I'll retire. His eyes narrowed. Are you well, Canace? Of course. Though it was an effort, she smiled gaily up at him. I'm just tired. Could you have a tray sent up? When he nodded, she curtsied to the Duke and dashed inside without even glancing over her shoulder. Jett watched with a mixture of amusement and frustration as his pretty little bride deliberately ignored him. He was tempted to follow her, to continue the argument she'd started, but that would be childish and was unlikely to accomplish anything. Better to let her anger cool before he confronted her, or he could just wait until after they were married. She would have to listen to him then. His father interrupted his thoughts. That didn't go as well as I'd hoped, the Duke commented. Better than I expected. He tossed his reins to a young groom and turned. She's just a little annoyed. What did you do? Mac almost snarled, frowning harshly at the young man. Jett held up a hand. Not what you think. We were just arguing about her role as a wife. Unconvinced, Mac glared for several pregnant moments before entering the manor with long and angry strides. He doesn't believe you, Alan pointed out as he led the way inside. I don't blame him. Did you bed her? Having expected that question, Jett took no offense. I did not. She's as pure as the day I met her, though not half so innocent. That part he kept to himself. She'll say the same, if asked. Maybe, but Mac won't believe either of you. And she is technically compromised. He gave his younger son a small half-smile. Even if she is not in truth, you did spend several days alone together. By now they'd reached his father's study. Jett shrugged, lowered himself into a chair near the blazing fire, and removed his riding gloves. He knew what was coming next, but decided to let his father bring it up. Alan cleared his throat and paced around the room. Given the circumstances, I really must insist that you marry her sooner rather than later. Jett raised an eyebrow. I thought that might have been why both you and Mac agreed to let her come with me. Just another way to trap me, I suppose. Though the words were harsh, Jett's tone was mild, catching Alan off guard. Because he couldn't think of anything helpful to say, he perched on the edge of his desk and wondered at the sudden change in his son. It was a moment before he wrangled his thoughts once again. You know you have to marry her, he pointed out. I am aware, Jett remarked as he closed his eyes and let his head drop back. His face twitched, very nearly breaking into a smile before he could control himself. The Duke blinked in confusion. You don't seem at all put out. Because I'm not. She's pretty enough. She has fire, and I have to marry her anyway. Might as well make the best of it. There was more to it, of course, but his father didn't need to know that. Well, not having anticipated his son's quick consent, Alan needed a moment to rearrange the conversation. The wedding, then, will have to be soon. Next month would be best. Still not opening his eyes, Jett allowed himself a small smile. This month would be better. Since that was entirely out of character, Alan just had to say something. All right, he snapped as he fell into the chair opposite his youngest son. What happened? Jett cracked one eye open. Nothing happened. Don't give me that. If you've bedded her, I haven't. His father's irritation finally convinced him to sit up. She's still a virgin, I swear it. We just decided we'd deal tolerably well together as man and wife. Just like that? Something didn't sound right. She's hardly a competent chatelaine, and she's not much more than a child. Now you don't want me to marry her? What? Of course I do. Then perhaps you shouldn't start listing all her shortcomings, Jett commented dryly. I might forget her rather stunning virtues. Alan chuckled. She is a lovely creature. But what really changed your mind? It can't be her beauty. She was beautiful enough from the moment you saw her. How could he answer that question? He certainly wasn't going to tell his father he'd been sleeping with Canace, though not truly bedding her, since they'd left Surfolk. She was young, passionate, beautiful, and he wanted her. Not just for a night, but every night. And the only way to ensure that was to marry her. If she was perhaps a little wild, if she didn't always obey, well, those were things he could train out of her. And he could deal with the animals. He'd already dealt with the lambs. He could do the same with the damn dog. The horse didn't bother him. She'd need the horse if she was to ride with him on a daily basis. Jett, his father called, reclaiming his attention. Not willing to share all his thoughts, he shrugged. Let's just say I find her to be better than I thought she'd be. Since you were expecting an uneducated hag, that's not saying much. They both laughed, but Alan sobered quickly. Are you sure you want the wedding to be so soon? We could easily justify waiting a month. You sound like you want me to wait. The Duke raised a dark eyebrow. I just don't want you to regret it the morning after. If you need a little more time to reconcile yourself. I'm reconciled enough. He was going to claim her virginity before the month was out. That much was certain. She might as well be his wife when the inevitable happened. Well pleased with this development, no matter how it had come about, Alan moved on. When precisely would you like the wedding to take place? Jett shrugged and leaned back once more. I'd prefer tomorrow, but Canace will likely need some convincing. He smiled slightly. His father laughed outright. Yes, she did seem a little irritated with you upon your arrival. Do you think she was angry enough to refuse the marriage? She was no more than a little annoyed, Jett clarified, almost convinced it was true. She will refuse nothing, but she will still need at least a few days to prepare for her own wedding. Perhaps a week, perhaps a little less. Good enough. Though he didn't know what exactly had changed Jett's mind, he wasn't about to question it now. I'll tell your mother. His son laughed. Do you think she can put a wedding together in a week? 5 days, actually. Rosemary glided through the door and took a seat beside her husband before either man had even registered her presence. The wedding will be in 5 days. Her son blinked at her. But how did you... Never mind, I don't want to know. She smiled at him. That's right, you don't want to know. The wedding is in 5 days. I'm handling all the arrangements, and all any of you have to do is show up. Now, if you'll excuse me, there's much to be done and only 5 days to do it in. Before they had a chance to respond, she'd risen and disappeared. Alan let out a low chuckle. Now that's that, I suppose. No one dares argue with your mother. That much was true, so Jett rose. Then I'd better tell my beautiful bride the happy news. I'm sure she's retired by now, his father insisted. She was quite exhausted. It will have to wait until morning. Of course, Jett nodded and made his way to the door. Good night, father. With his destination firmly in mind, Jett left the room with determined strides. That's it for today. If you enjoyed this chapter, stay tuned for more tales of romance. Until we meet again, may your days be filled with passion and just a touch of magic.